Superrealist artists work with unnerving precision, confounding the viewer's expectations of art by presenting a world that is, unsettlingly, truer than true. The style flourished in the US in the late 1960s and the 1970s. Superrealism is a style of art based on imitating photographs in paint and imitating real objects in sculpture. The name was coined by Malcolm Morley, the pioneer of the genre, in 1965. Other terms used to describe this movement are photorealism and hyperrealism. Origins and influences. The obvious forerunner to superrealism was trompe, to fool the eye, painting, in which the artist tried to convince the viewer that what they were seeing was not a painting of objects, but the objects themselves. This genre originated in the Renaissance and flourished in Dutch painting of the 1600s and American painting of the 1800s. The highly finished surfaces of 17th-century Dutch painting, which are especially evident in Vermeer's work, were also influential on many superrealists, especially Richard Estes. Superrealist painters usually try to mimic the unique qualities of a photograph: the way the image falls in and out of focus, the way the lens distorts features, and the way the shutter freezes motion. Malcolm Morley's paintings of ships, for example, look like photographs that have been cheaply reproduced, while Richard Estes's paintings of the wide cityscapes of New York look like panoramic photographs. Superrealists usually try to remove emotion from their paintings, thus replicating the apparent detachment of mechanically produced images. Superrealist sculptors strive to mimic real objects, especially the human figure. The two most famous superrealist sculptors, DeAndrea and Dwayne Hansen, cast directly from the human body. They work in polyvinyl, which gives a smooth, flesh-like finish and allows for detailed painting of the surface. Supermarket shopper Dwayne Hansen, 1970. Hansen's people sculptures are wonderful examples of superrealism. They are so lifelike, they often initially fool the viewer into thinking they are real people. Superrealism. Malcolm Morley. B. London, 1931. In over 50 years as a painter, Malcolm Morley has refused to settle into a single style. His work has covered abstract expressionism, pop art, and conceptual art. But he is most famous for helping to initiate two influential art movements, Superrealism and Neo-Expressionism. In the 1950s, Morley was entranced with abstract expressionism, creating paintings with black and white horizontal bands, not dissimilar to the work of Barnett Newman. In the mid-1960s, he pioneered superrealism and painted ships, using postcards as reference. To avoid painterly expression and emotional responses, he would often turn both the canvas and postcard upside down while he painted. The result was a picture faithful to the look of mass-produced photographic imagery. In the early 1970s, Morley produced conceptual art, but by the 1980s he had turned to neo-expressionism, and his work was full of loose, robust brushwork and sensual color. Lifeline. 1952–53 attends Camberwell School of Arts, 1998 and Craft in London, 1954–57 studies at the Royal College of Art, London, 1958 moves to New York, 1965 begins Superrealist style, painting warships and ocean liners. 1972 becomes Professor New York at the State University of 1975–76 produces pictures depicting scenes of disaster. 1984 becomes first winner of the Turner Prize. Wall jumpers. Morley recently returned to Superrealism, creating what he calls fidelity paintings. Here, the subject matter is troubling Palestinians leaping over a wall into Israel, and yet Morley paints a sensuous image, full of color and athletic movement. 2002 Oil on canvas, 229 by 175 centimeters, Musée Moderne et Contemporain de Strasbourg, France. Closer look. Imitating the photo. The original photo was taken with a telephoto lens. This creates a shallow depth of field, with only a narrow section of the view in focus. Morley has imitated this effect, showing the wall and figures in focus. But farewell to Crete. This painting, from Morley's neo-expressionist phase, is made up of pairs of images: two fertility goddesses, two naked couples, a bull and a horse. It is one of a series of paintings of Greece and Crete that explore myth and reality, and the ancient and modern worlds. 1984, oil on canvas, 203 by 417 centimeters, private collection. Chuck Close. B. Monroe, Washington, 1940. Chuck Close uses superrealism to create mural-sized portraits. He works meticulously from photographs, drawing a grid over the photograph before drawing a grid over the canvas and copying the photograph, square by square. Close took up superrealism in 1967, spending 30 months creating 8 huge, black and white airbrushed portraits. In the 1970s, he moved on to color. He also started making fingerprint portraits by inking his finger and making impressions on the grid surface of the paper. Other portraits were created from small paper discs, of varying colors and shapes, glued to a grid canvas. Close chooses his subjects from among his friends, including the artists Richard Serra, Roy Lichtenstein, and Robert Rauschenberg. He does not take commissions, saying, "Anyone vain enough to want a 9-foot portrait of themselves would want the blemishes removed." Lifeline. 1958-64 studies at the University of Washington, then at Yale. 1967 first solo exhibition at the University of Massachusetts. Begins painting in superrealist style. 1969 his work is included in the biennial exhibition at New York's Whitney Museum. 1988 a blood clot in his spinal column leaves Close paralyzed, neck down initially from the 1989 begins painting again at first by holding a brush between his teeth. 1998 major retrospective of his work is held at MoMA, New York. Linda to make color portraits like this one, Close imitated the mechanical reproduction techniques used by a printer applying first cyan, blue, then magenta, then yellow. This mural-sized painting of the writer, Linda Rosencrantz Finch, took Close 14 months to finish. It is amazingly detailed. Individual hairs, eyelashes, and pores can be seen. 1976-78, acrylic and pencil on canvas, 274 by 213 centimeters, Akron Art Museum, Ohio, U.S. This picture of the painter Alex Katz was created while Close was paralyzed from the neck down. It consists of easy-to-make shapes, circles, diagonal lines, lozenges, and, as a result, appears looser and more painterly than his early work. The effect is like looking through hammered glass. 1991, 71 by 59 centimeters, Cecil Higgins Art Gallery, Bedford, UK. Closer look. Tiny paintings using a brush strapped to his hand, Close painted little shapes inside each square of the grid. "I saw that each grid was in fact a tiny painting," he said. John DeAndrea. B. Denver, 1941. The American sculptor John DeAndrea makes polyvinyl, PVC, casts of the human figure, usually nude. The figures are astonishingly realistic. He sets hair into plastic scalps a few strands at a time. He paints the PVC not just with flesh tones, but also with moles, tiny veins, and scars. Even pressure marks on the flesh made by clothing are preserved by the casting material. A couple, man-clothed, DeAndrea's life-size sculptures often take the viewer by surprise. At first glance, these figures, designed to lean against a wall, might easily be taken for real people. 1978, cast PVC painted in oil, life-size, private collection. Audrey Flack. B. New York, 1931. Audrey Flack came to prominence in the 1970s with a series of superrealist still-life paintings showing feminine subject matter, jewels, cosmetics, cut glass, cream cakes. Unlike many superrealists, who dispassionately render photographs, Flack aims to stimulate an emotional response in the viewer. She works by projecting a slide onto her canvas and then painting the projected image. A Marilyn Vanitas. A Vanitas is an allegorical still life, in which the objects remind the viewer of the transience of life. This is a Vanitas for the modern age, with the pink hourglass suggesting passing time, and the cut fruit hinting at the inevitability of decay. 1977, oil over acrylic on canvas, 244 by 244 centimeters, Artist's Collection. Richard Estes. B. Kewanee, Illinois, 1932. Estes studied at the Art Institute of Chicago, then moved to New York in 1956. Around 1967, he began to paint New York street scenes in a superrealist manner, working freehand from his own color photographs. Estes rarely reproduces his photographs faithfully. He subtly alters details or, by using two or more photographs, completely reinvents the world he depicts. He focuses obsessively on reflections. They appear boldly in puddles and panes of glass and unfold, like oil slicks, on the shiny, curved surfaces of cars. Clothing store Estes loves to depict reflections in shop windows. As the objects inside are obscured by reflections from the outside, wonderfully mysterious, complex compositions arise. The result in this instance is an almost abstract arrangement of hard-edged shapes. 1976, acrylic on board, 51 by 56 centimeters, private collection.